Hi there, everybody. What a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I was a war reporter for a long time, many years. And as a result, I always thought that death was dramatic and happened somewhere else. I was blown up by a roadside bomb. I survived because the guy with the clacker that blew us up did it a moment too soon. I had bullets hit next to my head into sandbags and kicked sand in the side of my face, maybe an inch or two away. I think my worst moment, my loneliest moment, I was seized by rebels in the Niger Delta, these Ijaw warriors, and they accused me of being a spy. And one of them came up to me. He was carrying a belt-fed machine gun, very intimidating-looking guy, and he said, "When we kill you later, I'll be the one to do it." I eventually got out of the business after my dear friend and brother and colleague Tim Hetherington was killed in Libya. He bled out from a shrapnel wound from a mortar. I gave it up. I got married. I had children. The most amazing thing in the world happened to me. I had a family with someone I love. And then I found out that death could be quite casual as well. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It was a few years ago, during COVID, we were living in Massachusetts. We had a place at the end of a dead-end dirt road, very remote old house in the woods, no cell phone service. The landlines didn't work when it rained because they shorted out. It was paradise, basically. And one day we had a little babysitting from some teenage girls up the road. And I had built a cabin even deeper in the woods that had just oil lamps and a wood stove. And my wife and I, Barbara and I, went out to the cabin while the babysitters were taking care of the little girls, the 6 months old and 3 years old, to the most beautiful place in the world, basically. And we were out there at this cabin, and this is how death happens as well. In mid-sentence, I felt pain shoot through my abdomen. It doubled me over. And trying to work it out, I stood up and tried to walk around, and I collapsed. And I said words that I never thought I'd have to say. I said, "I think I'm going to need some help." So what I didn't know was that I had an undiagnosed aneurysm in my pancreatic artery. An aneurysm is an unnatural ballooning of the wall of an artery. It's a freak thing. What I had was extremely rare. And they will grow for years, decades, your whole life. And then they'll get to a critical point and they'll rupture. And if that happens, you will probably die. If you're stabbed in the stomach, you're doing well because A, you know what the problem is, there's blood all over the floor, and B, the doctors know where to put their finger to plug the leak, but not with internal hemorrhage, not with a ruptured aneurysm in your abdomen. I was losing maybe a pint of blood every 10 minutes. You can lose 5 or 6 pints of blood before you die. And we lived an hour from the hospital. You can do the math. I was literally a human hourglass. So Barbara got her arm around my waist, and I got my arm over her shoulder, and she dragged me out of the woods and put me in the passenger seat of the car and ran in and told the babysitters, like, try to get a cell phone signal. The lines weren't working. Try to get a cell phone signal. One of the girls got 1 bar of signal and called the ambulance, and Barbara came back out to where I was, and she watched me going in and out of consciousness, and every time I went out of consciousness, she thought that might be it. He might not come back. Finally, the ambulance got there, and we started out on the drive, the 1-hour drive, and I'd gone into something called compensatory shock, where your body kind of rallies for a while. It clenches down on everything. It hoards this precious blood in your chest, in your brain. And you can only do that for so long. And I held it together, and right when we got to the hospital, I went off a cliff. I felt it happen. My blood pressure was 60/40. I was in end-stage hemorrhagic shock. I was convulsing. I was deep in hypothermia. And I had no idea I was dying. None. I was not of right mind. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'm just in for belly pain. Why are there 12 people around me? What is going on? I was very confused. They rushed me into the trauma bay. And suddenly there was a doctor with a big needle, and he came up to me and he said, I'm going to put this through your neck into your jugular, and we're going to transfuse you. And I said, you mean in case there's an emergency? That's how much I did not get it. And so they're working on my neck, and I just have to stop here and say, I'm an atheist. I like to think I'm a rationalist. I'm definitely not a mystic, and I'm not spiritual. My father, who passed away 12 years ago, was a physicist and an atheist. You need to know that because of what I'm about to say. A black pit opened up underneath me. It was a kind of portal to infinity. It was infinitely black, infinitely huge, and I didn't know I was dying, but I was like a wounded animal. I was like a gut-shot coyote. I knew that if I went into the pit, I wasn't coming back out. And I got terrified because I was getting pulled in. And suddenly above me, I saw my father, my dead father, in this incredible energy form. And he said, he communicated to me, it's okay. You don't have to fight it. You can come with me. I'll take care of you. My father was, I think the phrase is on the spectrum. He was a physicist. He was very hard to reach emotionally when I was young. But there he was when I really needed him. He was all the way there. It's okay, come with me. I was horrified. Like, go with you, you're dead. The party is over here, right? We'll talk later, a lot later, but I'm just in for belly pain. You got completely the wrong idea. And then I said to the doctor, because I'm still conscious, I'm still conversant, I said to the doctor, you got to hurry. I'm going. You're losing me right now. They stabilized me. They rushed me into the interventional radiology suite where they put you on a fluoroscope that does real-time X-ray, and then they use a catheter to navigate your venous system while watching you on the X-ray. I was on that fluoroscope for so long that I got radiation burns on my back. 2 weeks later, they came out. I had like a square sunburn on the back of my back from the metal plate that I was lying on. My wife, Barbara, was not psyched, and I tried to cheer her up a little bit by saying, that's okay, we can call it Square Noble. And she, a completely failed bit of humor. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't save me. And I remember, I wasn't sedated. They didn't dare. My vital signs were too low. And I looked up, I heard the doctors talking about me, and one of them said, we tried. We did everything we could. And the other guy was like, yeah. The alternative to interventional radiology is they send you into the OR and they cut open your abdomen and they start looking for the bleed before you bleed out. They told me this later. And had they done that, they would have called Barbara in to say goodbye. They wouldn't have told her that, but they would have brought her in to see me one last time. And then one of the doctors said, why don't we try going through his left wrist instead of through his groin? And the other guy said, I like the way you think. That's how they saved me. And I should say, unless I sound mocking or unappreciative, the guy who saved my life is one of the best interventional radiologists in the country, Dr. Phil Dombrowski. I am alive because of him. My daughters have a father. My wife has a husband because of that man. I'm deeply grateful. It was a shocking moment, though, and that was when I realized, whoa, I might die. I might die. I might not go home. I might never see my children again or my wife. I'm going to die under very bright lights, surrounded by strangers wearing surgical masks, and that's just how it is. I woke up in the ICU. I came out of this vast darkness to the sound of a very intense Boston accent. A ICU nurse, middle-aged, looked like she'd buried 3 husbands, tough as nails, heart of gold, you know the type, right? And I opened my eyes and she said, congratulations, Mr. Junger, You almost died last night. It's a miracle you're alive. No one can believe you made it." I was shocked. I had no idea, absolutely no idea. And then suddenly I remembered the pit, my father. What did I see last night? What was that? What was I given a glimpse of? The woman left, came back an hour later and said, "How you doing?" And I said, "Well, after what you told me, not so great. Like, I mean, it's terrifying." And she said, "Try this. Instead of thinking about it like something scary, try thinking about it like something sacred." And then she walked out. The homecoming was complicated. Like coming home from war is complicated. It should be the best thing ever, so why are you sobbing? Why do you feel like you don't deserve to be there? I came home. Barbara picked me up. We drove up the dirt road to our house. All the trees were hung with drawings from my girls. "We love you, Daddy. Come home, Daddy. We miss you." I was a mess by the time I got out of the car. And I hugged them, and then the problem started. I was experiencing something that apparently is quite common, I didn't know about. It's a classic effect of trauma. Derealization. I didn't think I existed. I thought maybe I died. I thought maybe that I actually had died at the hospital. I saw my father, and everything else after that was a dying hallucination, and I'm not really here, and no one can see me. I think they can, but they can't. They're mourning me. My little girls, my friends, my wife. I finally went up to Barbara, and I was really sort of descending into madness. And I went up to Barbara, and I sort of grabbed her by the shoulders, like, "Tell me I'm really here. Just, like, tell me I made it." And she said, "Yes, of course you made it, sweetheart. You're right here. We love you, et cetera, et cetera." In my mind, I'm thinking, that's exactly the kind of thing a hallucination would tell you. And then she said this brilliant thing. She said, "Do you feel like you were lucky or lucky to have this happen to you? I mean, not that I survived, of course I was lucky, but if you could push a button and just make it not happen, would you push the button?" And I didn't know how to answer. I'd been to the ultimate front line, I realized. I'd gone to the edge of the abyss. I looked over, and I was allowed to come back. I saw the secrets. I saw the mystery, right? And I came back, and now this knowledge, death, was perched on my shoulder like some ghastly raven. It was always there. Everything I did, this bird was on my shoulder reminding me of what almost happened and what will happen. And then I sort of realized that terror and reverence are two sides of the same coin. If you're not sufficiently terrified, you're not going to be sufficiently reverent of the miracle of life. You don't have to be religious to consider it a miracle. And if you're not sufficiently focused on the miracle of life, not just in its grand form, but in its days, in its moments, you're not going to be sufficiently terrified. They go together. And I finally, in my sort of nerdy journalist way, I thought, etymology will save me. Really what Barbara was saying is, do you feel blessed or cursed? And so I thought, I'm going to look up the origin of the word blessing, see what it says. Maybe there's a path out of my state of mind with a little bit more knowledge. And indeed, it's derived from the Anglo-Saxon word bletzian, which means blood. The idea being that there is no blessing without a wounding, without a sacrifice. They're twinned. You don't get one or the other. You don't have to decide if you're blessed or cursed, because you can never be. It's always both. I would exempt anything bad happening to young children from that. I won't allow that there's a blessing in that. But everything else that happens to you is both. I'm still an atheist. Sometimes people ask me if my experience changed my relationship with death. Am I more at ease with it? Am I comfortable? Will this help later? It didn't really. It was terrifying. But this is what helped. The wisdom of children, like they're blank slates. They see the world as it is. If only we could get back to what they see, the way they understand things. My oldest daughter, I'd explained to her about the earth as a sphere and the sun, and a few days later, she came up to me and she said, "Daddy, I know why there's night." I said, "Why, sweetheart?" She said, "So that other people can have day. Well, I know why we die. So that other people can live. There simply isn't room to keep all of us here." And in that sense, for me now, because of what my daughter said, I realize it's an honor. Not only is it a requirement and a duty, but it's an honor and a privilege to perform this final act of love. And that is to leave this beautiful planet so that our children can enjoy it as we did. Thank you so very much for the chance to talk to you.